Labor Day baseball on ESPN from the Astrodome in Houston, Texas. The Astros are hosting the Cincinnati Reds. And as we look at the standings in the National League West, we see the Reds trailing Atlanta by 6.5 games, the Padres back by 7, and the Astros trailed by 15.5. Hello again, everybody. Paul Olden here with my partner, John Stearns, and the Astros have already set a goal. They would like to finish in 3rd place this year. The Reds, meanwhile, are trying to hold on to what they have and try and move back up again, especially, John, after being in 1st place on July the 21st.
Well, on the 21st of July, the Reds were 55-37 in 1st place by half a game. Since that time, they're 19-24. Their starters are 14-21 during that period with a 4.05 ERA. They've lost Greg Swindell and Tom Browning to the disabled list. They start today 6.5 back to the Braves, but they play the Braves 5 times in September, 3 at home and 2 away. Needless to say, every game is important right now for the Reds.
And the Reds know that they don't play well here in the Dome. They've lost 5 of the 7 games thus far. And the Astros building on that long record-setting road trip. They were 12-14 on the trip, and things continue to look up for the club.
The Astros are playing very well. They've won 12 out of their last 15 games. Their team ERA is 2.65 during that period, and they're hitting .272. It's important for them to beat LA and San Francisco, and they have a chance to finish at 500 this year. September spoilers, the Astros. They play the Reds 4 times, the Braves 6 times, and the Padres 5 times this month. They'll have a lot to say about who wins this division.
So I'll keep it right where it is to see how this one turns out. Jose Rio on the mound for the Reds, and he'll be opposed by the Astros' Brian Williams. Lineups and first pitch coming up right after this timeout.
ESPN Major League Baseball is brought to you by Smooth Bush Beer and Easy Drinking Bush Light.
Welcome back to the Astrodome, where Houston is 38-29 this season, and they have won 5 of the 7 games versus the Reds, as the Astros hosting Cincinnati in a brief 2-game series. Let's take a look at the lineups now. First for Lou Piniella's visiting Cincinnati Reds. Leading off in center field is Dave Martinez. At first base, Hal Morris. Barry Larkin hitting 3rd at short and batting over 300. Chris Sabo at 3rd base, followed by Clem Braggs, then Joe Oliver, who is doing the catching. Paul O'Neill in right field. Bill Doran at 2nd base, the former Astro. And batting number 9 and pitching for Cincinnati is Jose Rio. And they'll be facing Brian Williams, who is making his 15th start this year, 3rd against the Reds, and he is 1-1.
Brian Williams, just 23 years old, and he signed in the June 1990 draft. He raced through the minor leagues in 1 year. He's now entrenched in the Astros starting rotation. His numbers this year are outstanding for a rookie. 7-4 with a 3.29 ERA. In 87 innings pitched, he's only given up 80 hits. Opponents are hitting .247 against him. Brian Williams mixes up a fastball that's above average, 80, 88, 89 miles an hour. He's got a curve, slider, and change. Got command, pretty good command for a young guy of all those pitches. But the best thing about him is his intangibles. He wants the ball, he has fun playing, and he's just a real competitor on the mound. Defense tonight for Houston. Ernie Riles will be at first base. Casey Candale gives Craig Biggio a break at 2nd. Andahar Cedeno at shortstop. Ken Caminetti will be at 3rd base. Luis Gonzalez in left. Steve Finley in center. Eric Anthony in right field with Eddie Taubensee behind the plate.
So standing in is Dave Martinez to get us underway. Hal Morris to follow, then Barry Larkin. Corners pull up a little bit. The first one in there to Dave Martinez in center field. Reggie Sanders came up yesterday as a pinch hitter. And the Reds trying to cope with a variety of injuries, not only to their pitching staff, John, but to some key players. Little fly ball. And most notably, Pip Roberts going into the fence yesterday in Cincinnati and came up with a little bit of an ankle problem.
I was down in the clubhouse before the game, about 3 hours before the game, and Lou Piniella was waiting for Roberts to come in. He wants him in that lineup. Roberts not able to play today, and he's scratched from the starting lineup. Dave Martinez takes his spot in center.
Now Hal Morris with one out here in the first inning, and Brian Williams looking for victory number 8. And his second win over the Reds this year. Reds haven't played well here in the Dome, and here is an Astro team, John, that lately has confidence not only here but on the road as well.
Oh, the Astros are playing so well. I think that they really came of age on that 26-game road trip last month. They've got a bunch of young guys that are trying to establish themselves as major leaguers, and they're all coming together here at one time. Guys like Biggio, Steve Finley, Eric Anthony, Luis Gonzalez, even Tobin C behind the plate, and this pitcher Brian Williams, Andahar Cedeno at short. All of these guys are in their mid to young 20s. The Astros are going to be good in the future.
So Lou Piniella keeping an eye on Hal Morris, who has done well versus Astros pitching this year, knocking in 13 runs this season. He's batting over 300 just by a tick on the road at 301. So this is something we won't see very much of when Jose Rio is on the mound. He rarely walks hitters. But for Brian Williams, that is his 35th walk this season in 88 innings. And now Barry Larkin. The Reds and Astros have split the 14 games right down the middle, 7-7. Larkin has hit safely in 7 of his last 9 games. Just underway from the Astrodome.
Williams trying to be too fine early in the count. A tough thing to teach a pitcher, especially in professional ball, is to throw the ball for a strike early in the count. Pitchers tend to be afraid that that ball is going to get hurt. The key to any success for a pitcher, especially in the big leagues, is working ahead in the count.
This is the ball 1 pitch coming up.
When I was catching for the Mets, I didn't try to locate on the first pitch as much as just get a strike down low in the strike zone somewhere. At 0-1, I can go ahead and go to work on that hitter a lot better than 1-0.
Dave Martinez with a fly ball out. And on ball 2, a little meeting at the mound, and Hal Morris draws a walk. And Morris is not really much of a threat to steal. He has 6 stolen bases, and he's been caught 6 times. And maybe John Toppensee is worried that Williams is paying too much attention to Morris and getting out of a rhythm early.
Well, I think Williams threw 2 fastballs inside. Obviously, the scouting report on Larkin, throw him hard stuff in, but you can't do that until you get ahead in the count. You've got to work ahead.
Yeah, the 3rd such pitch in that location. Chris Sabo on deck, and Larkin looks to see if he's going to be allowed to swing away 3-0 as Art Howe in the middle. Happy about the way his club is playing these days and the direction, John, of the Astros overall over the next couple of years or so.
Oh, they've got a new owner here in town, a lot of money. Their payroll is only $12 million, and they've done a very good job this year of improving throughout the year. The Astros, if I wanted to be in an organization for the future, they'd be a great organization to be with.
So here is Chris Sabo at 248, 12 homers and 40 RBIs, and Bob Cluck, the pitching coach, immediately goes to the mound to talk to Williams and Taubensee. And probably exactly what you were talking about, John, maybe being a little bit too fine and trying to make that perfect pitch.
That's exactly what Bob Cluck is telling Brian. He says, Brian, you're trying to go around and locate early in the count. Get out and throw the ball over the plate. Now, Williams just threw a lot of fastballs for a ball. What you do in that situation, if a guy is struggling with the same pitch, go to a breaking ball. See if he can change what he's doing out there by throwing a strike with another pitch.
So 1 away, Sabo in there with runners at 1st and 2nd, and Chris has grounded into 11 double plays this season. Williams really is for the most part, a fly ball pitcher. He'll try and get something low in the strike zone and get Sabo to go after it. Morris at second and Larkin at first, and he seems to have that particular location down pat. He's very good at throwing the fastball inside.
Actually, he tried a slider on that pitch, and the ball rode in and up. So Williams is a little bit shaky here in the beginning. What he needs to get out of this is a ground ball double play.
So is he telling the Reds that, hey, I don't have much of a breaking ball?
No, he'll get to a point where he'll start throwing all of his pitches once he settles down and finds the strike zone. It's frustrating as a catcher. Sometimes your pitcher comes out and he can't find the strike zone. You've got to throw the curveball. You've got to throw the changeup to see if you can get him in a rhythm to find the strike zone. Obviously, he's not on the strike zone now with the hard stuff.
And that would have been a ball as Morris at second and Larkin at first base had Sabo not gotten his bat in the way. So Williams is lucky that the count is 1-1 instead of 2-0. So still waiting to see a changeup or curveball. Now, when a pitcher seems to have a problem such as he's having, John, do you make an adjustment on the mound at all?
Well, you try to do that, but that's the pitching coach has already been out there, and he would suggest making the adjustment if it's a physical adjustment that you have to make, such as cutting your stride down or keeping your front side closed. Now there, Williams came down in the strike zone, and he got a break. He got a bad break from Terry Tata, the home plate umpire. That looked like a good pitch to me. Runs the count to 3-1 with one out. A possible chance for Lou Piniella to move the runners here. I don't think he'll do it until a full count comes up.
Now once again missing inside is Brian Williams, and the bases are loaded, and here comes Glenn Braggs.
See, now, if one of those pitches is a ball, the other one has to be a strike as far as I'm concerned. One of them was down and away, the other one up and in, both of them very close on the corner. You can't take away both sides of the plate. Terry Tata's pinching Brian Williams here in the top of the first. As you recall, Paul, Terry Tata was the umpire at second base that was involved in the Eddie Murray controversy of a couple of nights ago. And second base umpire Ed Rapuano was behind the plate. Now Terry Tata walks behind the plate. Third base umpire Joe West came down and said something to Terry.
Well, I think third base is loose, not moored firmly enough, and they're going to get another one. So continue about the controversy over the weekend.
Well, what happened was, and I watched this on ESPN Sports Center, Eddie Murray was hitting with the bases loaded. He's one of the best hitters in Major League history with the bases loaded, and Terry Tata at second base, he asked Terry Tata to move to get out of his vision of the flight of the ball from the pitcher's hand. Normally that's a pretty normal procedure. An umpire will move for you.
And I think Murray does it all the time. I mean, he is known to do that.
Well, he does, and for some reason it developed into controversy, and Murray got thrown out of the game. I can't quite understand what happened, because as a player, that's pretty commonplace to ask an umpire to move. He'll just move over a few steps and play goes on, and I can't imagine what would have happened to have that develop into an ejection.
Well, they played a football game here yesterday, and Williams will be allowed to warm up while they fix the problem at third base. And the Astros, of course, are hoping to have better luck than the Oilers had versus Pittsburgh.
NFL teams aren't supposed to lose at home, and especially the Houston Oilers. They were picked to be one of the best teams in the league this year, and Warren Moon had a bad day, 5 interceptions. Tough to overcome something like that.
All right, looks like third base is firmly implanted once again. Grounds crew member gets a nice hand from the small gathering here on Labor Day. And we're set to get back to play. Now, Williams had a lot of time to think about pitching to Glenn Braggs. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Right now he's young. He's in the top of the first. He's walked 3 straight guys. There's not much that he's going to be upset right now. He needs to just come out and throw this first ball down the middle. Don't try to locate the ball. If Braggs hits it hard, there's nothing you can do about it. Top C giving him location. I don't agree with that. Just keep the ball down.
Suddenly he gets the strike call over the inside corner. 0-1 the count to Braggs, with Morris at third, Larkin at second, and Sabo at first on 3 consecutive walks here in the first inning with 1 out. His first good breaking ball, John.
Still up in the strike zone, though. That was a breaking ball that was up. If you know, it was an 0-1 pitch, so he got away with it. And Braggs not getting cheated up there. Braggs is a guy, a real strong guy. He was an outstanding prospect in the Brewers organization, but has never reached his full potential in the major leagues. He's hitting .239 with only 7 home runs this year.
He's grounded into 10 double plays. Bases full, 1 out, 0-2 the count. Another breaking ball. Perlazo coaching at third base, and Tony Perez will probably get into the Hall of Fame next vote over at first.
I remember Doggy when I was catching for the Mets. He was the first baseman for the Cincinnati Reds. Later went up to the Montreal Expos and hit 5th behind Gary Carter and Ellis Valentine and Andre Dawson. He was a tremendous hitter and a great veteran player for that young Expo teams of the late 70s, early 80s.
To third, let's see if they can turn to. Gonna be close. And Braggs with a dive into first base pays off. Reds get a run as Morris checks in. And it's 1-0 Cincinnati here in the first inning.
Let's take a look. Ken Caminetti, one of the best third basemen in the game, gives a good lead throw to Casey Candale. Candale turns it. I thought, boy, it was a close play. Pretty good call by Steve Ripley. He was right on the money. Hard to dispute that call, especially from the press box where you're 200-300 feet away.
So Joe Oliver stands in with runners on the corners, 2 outs and 1-0. The Reds on top of Houston. So Brian Williams trying to settle in. Looks as though he's starting to get some confidence in at least attempting to throw breaking ball, and starts off with a high strike. You're right, John. He's still up in the strike zone.
He's still up in the strike zone. The key to scoring that run last time and Braggs beating that ball out was Chris Sabo did a great job of breaking up the double play. He put the pressure on Candale at second base.
Joe Oliver swinging a hot bat lately. Hit safely in 14 of his last 16, 21 out of the last 25. And he's driving in runs.
Got a guy here on first base that can run a little bit, Braggs, but the guy on third, Barry Larkin, can run. If you're the catcher and he takes off, you've got to come up, check the runner at third before throwing through to second base.
One and 2 to Joe Oliver. There's Barry Larkin. And Braggs across the infield sharing the bag with Ernest Riles. Toppensee with a couple of encouraging words out to Williams, and now Eddie's back behind the plate. First and third, 2 outs and 1-2 the count. Reach for a breaking ball, hit it well, and Gonzalez will run it down. So Joe Oliver lunging after that curve and put a lot of charge into it, but comes up short. Reds settle for a run and leave 2. Bottom of the first inning from the Astrodome, 1-0, Cincinnati on top. Let's take a look at the lineup now for the homestanding Astros. They'll figure prominently in the race in the National League West down the stretch. Casey Candell leads off at second base. Steve Finley in center field. Luis Gonzalez, the left fielder, and Eric Anthony in right. Ken Caminiti at third base. Ernest Riles at first base. Bagwell getting a rest. Andujar Cedeno at shortstop. Ed Taubensee behind the plate. And Brian Williams bats number 9. And on the mound for the Reds is Jose Rio.
Jose Rio is 27 years old. He really went into the season this year as the staff ace. Came up with a sore elbow. Remember his first game, Lou Piniella left him out there for about 150 pitches. He came up tender, and that really hurt the Reds this year. He's really recovered and is pitching very well. He's 10-9 with a 2.93 on the year. And he's a power pitcher, fastball, slider, split finger. And he's been outstanding recently. And the best thing about him is in 169 innings, he's averaging only 1.7 walks per 9 innings. One of the best control pitchers in the big leagues. Defensively, Hal Morris at first base, Billy Doran at second base today, Barry Larkin at shortstop, Chris Sabo at third, Glenn Braggs will be in left field, and Dave Martinez takes Bip Roberts' place in center. Paul O'Neill will be in right field, and Joe Oliver behind the plate.
And Casey Candell stands in. Candell, who rarely starts, was shocked, John, when he came in today, huh?
I was down in the Astros clubhouse when Candell came in. They didn't have hitting, so they were coming in a little bit late. Ground ball to second base, and Candell is 0 for 1, but he came in, looked at the lineup card, found out that he was in the lineup leading off at second base, and passed out in mock disbelief. Of course, everybody in the clubhouse got a big laugh about it, and Candell stayed on the ground for about 5 minutes.
Craig Biggio's okay. The Astros had to come in from Montreal and wanted to give a couple of the regulars a little extra time. They're both available, Bagwell and Biggio, to pinch hit later on.
And those are their two big guns, Bagwell and Biggio. And Biggio was upset he wasn't in the lineup today. I saw him, and he was cursing in a mock curse of Artie Howe, saying, gosh darn, I want to be in there. And that's the kind of guy Biggio is. He's a guy that wants to play every day.
Steve Finley with the count, 1 ball and 1 strike in the box with 1 out. Bottom of the first inning, 1-0. Cincinnati on top. It's funny, you know, it all was made in a very big way of the long road trip for the Astros. 28 days. Wound up going 12-14, which surprised a lot of people. Another one out to Doran at second base, and the former Astro makes it 2 away. On that road trip, the Astros traveled 9,186 miles. But they're coming off of a road trip in which they traveled 6,506 miles over just 7 days. So with 2 outs, Luis Gonzalez in there after 2 ground balls to the right side of the infield.
Now let's watch Jose Rio. He used to be a power pitcher relying predominantly on the fastball, but Larry Rothschild, the pitching coach for the Reds, has told me it's because of his tender elbow that he got this year early in the year. He's gone more to the slider and split fingered, and he's using the fastball just to set up the other 2. There's that split.
Glenn Braggs under it. 3 outs. Easy inning for Jose Rio. And at the end of 1 from the Dome, it's 1-0 Cincinnati.
ESPN Major League Baseball is brought to you by Anheuser-Busch, who proudly brings you Family Talk. Let's stop underage drinking before it starts.
The Astrodome moving to the second inning, and it's Paul O'Neill, Bill Doran, and Jose Rio. The Reds up 1-0. Brian Williams on the mound for Houston, looking for his 8th win of the season. Not a bad earned run average coming into tonight's game at 3.29. Just say today's game. You're kind of disoriented coming in here to the Dome. You think everything is at night. Fly ball. Finley, 1 away.
Now that's exactly what Brian Williams needed right there, a first pitch out, and he got it. Paul O'Neill not using his head there after Brian Williams struggled with his control in the first inning, lets him off the hook with a first pitch fly out to center.
And now Bill Doran stands in with one away, and Jose Rio on deck, who's not a bad hitter, but still he's the pitcher. So this could be a very important inning for Brian Williams now that he's passed O'Neill, who came up hitting .243, and now Doran looks at a first pitch strike. So Williams had a chance to really get loose in that first inning, that's for sure, walking 3 batters. Had a meeting with Bob Cluck. Catcher Taubensee went out a couple of times. There was the delay when third base was a little loose, and they had to put a new one out there. And I'm sure Johnny had conversations further with Cluck on the bench during the Astros first inning.
I think you'll see him start to mix it up a little bit, change speeds a little. Of course, he's a young guy, and changing speeds is not what he tries to do right now. That'll come later in his career. But you can see he's throwing a couple of more breaking balls now, and starting to get the ball down a little more in the strike zone. There's home plate umpire Terry Tata. He's a good umpire. I don't mean to... I got on him earlier about that play the other night.
Deep to right field. Anthony on the move, and it's over his head. Doran will make it to third. Didn't need to slide. They held up on the relay throw, but he didn't know that. Triple. So Eric Anthony going wide to the gap in right center field and came up just a hair short at the fence.
Here's Doran, a nice swing, level swing, hits the ball up in the air. He thought it was a fly out. Now let's see if Anthony drifts back on the ball. You've got to find the wall and run all the way as hard as you can. He did about as much as he could on the play, and Doran hits it off the top of the wall for an easy triple. Steve Finley, a good job backing up Anthony, or this could have been an inside the park home run.
Anthony appeared, John, as if he was concerned about hitting the wall, because as he actually turned his head and didn't even see the ball fly past him.
Anthony's out there because of his bat. He's not a great outfielder, but a great outfielder would have gotten to that wall a little bit sooner, maybe made a great catch on that play.
Infield in, with the Reds up 1-0 and a man at third with 1 out, and the pitcher Jose Rio at the plate. There's Billy Doran. So you always worry about squeeze play. That first pitch, I guess, John, was designed. Throw it away, keep it away from the pitcher, Jose Rio, make it difficult.
Oh, Pinnell. Artie Howe has the infield in.
And the ground ball off the end of the bat for a base hit.
See, that's the risk you run by pulling the infield in, but I think Howe had the right position there. With the pitcher hitting, you want to have the infield in, make him get a base hit, and Rio went out and got the slow breaking ball down and away. Here it is from Brian Williams. Not a bad pitch, and Rio gets an AstroTurf base hit. On grass, this may not have made it through the infield.
Second RBI of the season for Rio, and Billy Doran getting congratulatory high fives in the dugout. And it's 2-0 in favor of the Reds. Back to the top of the order, and Dave Martinez. Little blooper will get down into center field. Rio moves to second.
Well, let's evaluate the situation here. Brian Williams has come out really struggling. He's got a live fastball, but you can see where he's throwing the ball. This ball is right at the waist, and you throw a waist-high fastball to a major league hitter down the middle like that, it's going to get hit hard somewhere. Williams just not on top of the ball. He's rushing a little bit today, and it's causing the ball to get up in the strike zone on him, and he's throwing a lot of balls in high strikes.
Backup catcher Scott Service has gone down to the far end of the Astro dugout to his equipment bag and is now strapping on the shin guards. Al Morris in there, drew a walk first time. Reds have certainly had a cozy relationship with the disabled list this year. They've run a lot of young players in and out of the lineup, John. Here in 1992, as Lou Piniella tries to keep a lid on things and keep his team in contention. Rijo tags and is headed for third base. He'll make it there.
Well, you mentioned the Reds. When we left spring training this year, I thought the Reds were going to win it all. They had everything. They had everything working. They had made the trade for Belcher in the offseason. They acquired Dave Martinez and Biff Roberts, and they had a lot of things going. The one thing that the Reds lack now that the season is coming to a close is that big power hitter in the middle of the lineup. They've got guys like Larkin and Sabo and O'Neill that'll hit you 10 to 15 home runs, but they don't have that big bopper hitting fourth, and that's the one thing the Reds lack at this time.
And Barry Larkin, who drew a walk in the first inning. 3 walks in that opening frame for Williams, but he got away with it, just 1 run scoring. And this one up the middle, off the glove of Williams. Another run. So the Reds taking advantage of a pitcher who is not on his game. And now we're going to get some bullpen action in a couple of moments for the Houston Astros. Blair and Baber, along with Service, going to go to work.
This game is a great illustration of the fact that it takes more to be just a thrower to pitch in the big leagues. Here's Williams out there. I know he's throwing 90 miles an hour. Now you put him in a AA game or a AAA game right here, and he may be blowing people away. But you put him into a game in the National League in September. There's Bob Cluck coming out again. Now he's going to stall for time and let Willie Blair get loose down in the bullpen. But you put a guy in the big leagues, you've got to locate and become a pitcher and mix them up. And despite what's happening right now, Brian Williams at 3.29, 4th in the major leagues in the rookie ERA race. He's 7-4, and he's had a very outstanding year, so you don't want to detract from his year with this one performance.
So Chris Sabo will be the batter. The score is Reds 3 and Houston nothing. Willie Blair warming in the bullpen for Houston, and Brian Williams is right on the edge as Sabo comes up. Everybody's been swinging at that first pitch, as Williams has been up in the strike zone and throwing a lot of fastballs. There's Martinez at second and Larkin at first. So let's see if Sabo gets a fastball that's hittable, and we'll go ahead and rip at it. The breaking ball. He hasn't thrown very many effective breaking balls, John.
Well, that's been the problem. He's coming out wild, and when you get wild and you're young, you go to that fastball too often, and you can see what's happening. The Reds are teeing up. There's nothing better than a 90-mile-an-hour straight fastball to a major league hitter if he knows it's coming.
One and one to Sabo. Glenn Braggs would be next. However, 2 outs. 2 on for the Reds. Astros will have Anthony Caminiti and Riles versus Rijo in the bottom of the inning. One and 2. Again, Martinez and Larkin. Balls and 2 strikes. He had a very good breaking ball to Joe Oliver to end it in the first inning. Oliver still hit the ball deep, but he had to lunge for it to left field. But he has not been able to get the breaking ball low enough in the strike zone with any kind of consistency. So the runners will be on the move here with 2 outs and a full count.
I'm Eddie Taubensee. I've just thrown 2 curveballs for balls, running the count to 3-2. Perfect time for a slider right here. Sabo's looking for a fastball, and the slider will be set up by the slow breaking balls that he's seen from the 2 previous pitches. Now he's got him. He's shown him a 3-2 breaking ball. Now you can come back with the fastball and not have him just raking on the thing.
Now he threw Sabo a fastball up and in earlier in the series of pitches, and Sabo went after it, and that fastball came after a breaking ball away.
All right, if you're the hitter right now, you've got the count to 3-2. You've got the runners moving, so it's a big at-bat for you. And you've seen the breaking ball. Now you've seen the fastball. So now as a hitter, what are you thinking up there now? Well, you're thinking, hey, I've just got to stay back and try to make contact. If it's out of the strike zone, I'll take it. In other words, you can't be sitting on a pitch to drive. You've got the hitter in a position here where you want him.
Andujar Cedeno, and he's across for the 3rd out. However, the Reds get a couple more here in the 2nd inning. At the end of 1.5, Reds 3, Astros nothing. It's the bottom of the 2nd inning from the Astrodome. Special Labor Day edition of Major League Baseball here on ESPN. Thanks for joining us. And keep it right where it is. Much more baseball to follow. Eric Anthony, Ken Caminiti, and Ernest Riles versus Jose Rio, who has a 3-0 lead with which to work. And here is a part of the bright future for the Astros, John, Eric Anthony.
Eric Anthony was, I had a chance to work with him in 1988. He was in the lower minor leagues with the Astros. I was the hitting and catching instructor for the Astros player development. He has got by far the most ability of anybody on this team. He can hit the ball in the upper deck in any ballpark. He's an exciting player that is going to find himself here. He's got 15 dingers this year, but he's the kind of guy that can hit 30 and 40.
Larkin wisely holds on to the ball, and Anthony has himself a base hit. Nice effort by Rio to try and do something to help out his infield.
Here's Anthony, that ball moving away. Rio throwing that split finger. It moves down and away. He almost catches this ball backhanded. But Anthony, a good job of staying on that outside off-speed pitch, trying to go up the middle. If you get out in front of that ball, you'll ground out to the first or second baseman.
So the good news for the Astros is that Ken Caminiti stands in. The bad news, John, is that he's followed in the lineup by Ernest Riles, a .229 hitter with 0 pop. Caminiti over the past week has hit almost .450, and he has been hot for the past 2 weeks as well, at a clip that's almost reading .470. Hitting streak on the line, and do you think Caminiti will get anything decent to hit?
See, he's got a 12-game hitting streak on the line, and the big difference between Caminiti this year and previous years, he's traditionally been a better hitter right-handed. This year, he's hitting just as well left-handed, .311 lefty and .307 righty for an average of .309 on the year.
In the air to right field. O'Neill brings it in. So now that he's over that hurdle, he faces Ernest Riles, who's at first base today. Well-traveled veteran, Milwaukee, San Francisco. Riles had .229, no home runs, and a couple of RBIs. The score is 3-0 in favor of the Reds. We're in the 2nd inning.
So now that there's 1 out, Ernie Riles is a guy that can handle the bat. Eric Anthony, with 5 bags on the year, is not a great runner, but he's not slow either. On a 1-0 count, a perfect situation for a hit and run. The Astros can't sit around and wait for the long ball. They've got to get their offense rolling, even though they're behind 3-0.
So first and second as Anthony holds up. Checking all the way. Tommy Spencer at third base. And there's Ed Ott at first base talking with Ernest Riles, who comes through.
Ernie Riles on a 1-0 count. And Rijo going a lot to that split finger. We haven't seen too many fastballs from him. He gets this ball starting out on the inner half, goes to the middle of the plate, and Riles drives the ball into the hole into right field.
Andujar Cedeno began the year as the regular shortstop for the Astros, and then was sent down to Tucson because he was just not doing the job. Came back on August the 25th and promptly hit for the cycle. 1-0 the count to Cedeno.
Cedeno's a guy with great actions on the infield. He's got a fine arm. He can hit for power, and he can throw. He's got all the tools of a major league shortstop, but he's not quite ready yet. He's too erratic, not consistent enough to be a good major league player.
Yeah, he can hit at AAA, but major leagues is a different story. What
baseball to major league level is all about, is not getting too high or too low in your performance levels. It's a long grind.
Two away, runners on the corners for Ed Taubensee. I remind you about our coverage tomorrow night, Tuesday night doubleheader here on ESPN. Cubs and the Pirates. And of course, the Pirates on top, or rather, the Pirates on top in the National League East. And then followed by Toronto and Kansas City. George Brett continues his quest for 3,000 base hits. So that's our doubleheader tomorrow. Cubs and Pirates, Toronto and Kansas City. First and second and 2 outs. And rather first and third and 2 outs. And Ed Taubensee at just 211. He was another one of the young Astros who had to be sent back for further seasoning at Tucson because he wasn't doing the job.
Well, of course, he came over to the Astros last offseason in the much publicized now Kenny Lofton deal. Kenny Lofton up for American League Rookie of the Year honors with 48 stolen bases. He made a great play the other night catching a ball over the center field wall. Taubensee, a left-handed hitting catcher, which you covet in baseball, was acquired by the Astros. They needed a catcher very badly. They wanted to move Craig Biggio to second base. They thought he was the guy, and he's young enough he could come through and become a solid major league backstop.
So now Rijo loads the bases, and Brian Williams is going to come up and swing the bat. Anthony at third, Cedeno at second, and Taubensee at first. And here is Brian Williams with a chance to really help himself. He's batting 143 with 3 RBI.
Now, Brian Williams in college at the University of South Carolina was a good outfielder and a good hitter. He can swing the bat better than most pitchers. Artie Howe giving him a big chance here, not pinch hitting. It is early, only the bottom of the second.
Bases remain full with the count 1 ball and 2 strikes. 2 outs. And Jose Rijo, John, looks like he's just trying to blow away Williams to get it over with.
Throwing him 2 sliders down and away. He doesn't need to throw a strike to get a strikeout here.
So here in the second inning, no runs, couple of base hits, and 3 left on. End of 2, 3-0 Reds. We're back at the Astrodome, moving to the 3rd inning, and the score, the Reds 3 and the Astros nothing. In between innings, up on the big TV screen over right field, John Stearns with long shaggy hair was was seen stealing a base, and this is an important day in baseball history. There, September 7th, what was it, 68?
78, Paul.
78,
Don't get
sorry.
too low there.
Yeah, 78. You stole a historic base. Tell us about that.
Well, I didn't see the screen, but I think that's when I set the National League record for stolen bases by a catcher. 23 was the old record, and I think I stole it in Montreal. That was number 24. I went on to get one more that year. 25. I started to press for 30, and they were throwing me out like crazy at the end of the year, trying to run without the jump.
And Bragg to the plate. Reached on a fielder's choice in the first inning. 3-0. The Reds on top. So you don't have September 7th circled on all of your calendars every year to remember?
You know, I don't remember. I've got a trophy. I've got the base at home, and Joe McDonald, the Mets general manager at that time, made a trophy out of it for me. Presented it to me. It was quite a nice deal there at Shea Stadium.
Ah. Oh, 1 out as Caminiti takes the pop-up off the bat of Bragg.
And on the trophy, it's got the date, the location of each steal, 1 through 25 throughout the year. So it's up on the wall at my home in Boulder, Colorado. But I don't normally get up there and read the dates. It's too long to remember.
Ah, yes. So Joe Oliver now in the box, flied out to deep left field to end it in the first inning. That's when the Reds scored their initial run, and he hit a good breaking ball from Brian Williams, low and away, and he just pulled it. But Williams hasn't had that kind of breaking ball with any kind of consistency to this point. And now he falls behind 2-0 with the hard stuff. So Williams is working doubly hard here and compared to Jose Rio. And 1 the count, and John, the way he was able to retire Oliver in the first inning with the breaking ball begs the question now, how come he hasn't thrown him a breaking ball?
Well, again, you work behind in the count. Plus, Oliver hit that breaking ball pretty hard.
So a 1-out single on a 3-1 pitch into right field. Astros had warming action with Willie Blair in the second inning. As Oliver down there at first base with Paul O'Neill coming up.
Oliver red hot. He's been on a great hitting streak in his last 25 games. He's hit in 21 of them for a 326 clip, 21 RBIs, and he's establishing himself this year as an everyday major league catcher. You don't find too many of those guys around anymore. If you look in the National League, how many guys are everyday catchers? I can think of Benito Santiago. You go up to L.A., they don't have an everyday catcher. Socha and Hernandez are sharing it. San Francisco doesn't have one. The everyday catcher of the past is few and far between.
This will carry out to Gonzalez for the second down. So why do you think that is?
It's a very difficult position to play. It takes a toll physically and mentally. And
they always say players these days are bigger, stronger, better nutrition, all that sort of thing. Weights are used by far more today than years ago. So it would seem that it would lead to players who are able to cope day in and day out.
See, I think kids now growing up are doing so many more things. They're playing more sports. There's more options available to them. And in the old days, a guy could set his sights on the catching position and start to become a catcher in Little League and then work his way up to the big leagues, where you found a lot of guys that were everyday catchers. Nowadays, speed has a lot more to do with it. You get a lot of platoon players at that position.
And you get players who are converted catchers late in their development, really. Doran Triple, first time up, scored one of the 2 runs in a 4-hit second inning for Cincinnati. Reds lead 3-0. They're in the third.
tell you one thing. You show me a catcher that hits well at the end of the season, and he is a heck of a player. I know that from August on, my bat got very slow. I got so tired catching every day. It was just too much of a grind on me. But some of these guys can continue to hit in September, and they are tremendously strong athletes.
Delayed steal, and the tag play is there anyway. Top and seat is Cedeno, and that's it for Oliver. And maybe a sign was missed on the hit and run play because the count was 2-1. Dome, 3-0 Cincinnati on top as we go to the bottom of the third inning. I want to remind you about ESPN Wednesday Night Baseball. 7:30 Eastern Time, 4:30 out west. And it's the Reds going from here to Atlanta. 2-game series here, then on to Atlanta. The Reds have 5 games left with the Braves. And looking at what they've done thus far, pretty tough. 7-6 overall. The Reds leading the season series, but at Fulton County Stadium, they have dropped 6 of the 7 games. It all starts here Wednesday night. The Reds and the Braves on ESPN. Reds have beaten Atlanta all 6 games at Riverfront.
I'm surprised that Cincinnati has faded in the second half like they have. They were in first place most of the year, and Atlanta has just overtaken them. Lou Piniella, not sure quite what's happening, but a lot of people around Cincinnati are saying, hey, maybe we don't have winners on our club. Maybe these guys are not winners, because they just really have welted away here in the last 6 weeks.
Well, maybe the criticism is on target in some areas, but still the team is 6.5 behind with a month to play in the season. I mean, it's not as if they've faded to 12 games like, for instance, the Chicago Cubs have dropped back to 10.5 after getting close. And you could say with the Cubs, it just didn't have the horses to hang in there. But the Reds have had to cope with injuries, and you know, you don't figure that 2 of your starters are going to miss a significant amount of time.
Well, the injuries were important. Chris Sabo was on the disabled list for a while. Now Darnell Coles, who came in and did a good job at third, he's on the disabled list along with Greg Swindell and Tom Browning. But it is hard to explain, as we mentioned in the opener, why the Reds are 19-24 since July 21st.
Great stop by Larkin. Throws him out. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just seen one of the top fielders and stars in baseball make a big league play.
This guy's one of the top 5 players in the game. He can do everything: run, hit, throw, hit for power, and field. I think if you made a poll of all the major league general managers at the shortstop position, this would be the guy that they would go to. Barry Larkin. He's 28 years old now, an ex-number-1 pick for the Reds, and he has not disappointed them.
Steve Finley in the box with a ground ball to second base, his only time up. 1 out here in the third. Jose Rijo and the Reds with a 3-0 lead.
You know, when you dissect Jose Rijo, what he's doing out here, I can remember when he was a young prospect for the Yankees, he threw a 95-mile-an-hour fastball and a hard slider. Now watch how he's changing speeds a lot, moving the ball around, and watch his motion. It's very reminiscent of a guy from the past, a Hall of Famer, Juan Marichal, who just happens to be his father-in-law.
Only Marichal's leg kick was more pronounced.
It was much more pronounced than that, but watch how Rijo is getting up there and is having a slight hesitation and almost turning his back to the plate.
The full count to Steve Finley with 1 out in the third. 3-0 Cincinnati on top.
Let's take a look at this pitch. Steve Finley thinks this is inside. I thought it was off the plate inside also. Terry Tata with a liberal strike zone, a very wide strike zone today for Jose Rijo. And I'm not so sure it's the same for Brian Williams. You find that in the big leagues, though. Rookies do not get the breaks that the veteran does.
Finley gets into it deep to right center. Martinez fades back though and puts it away. 1-2 3/3 inning. And at the end of 3 from the Astrodome, billed as the 8th wonder of the world, it is 3-0 Reds. We're back at the Astrodome, and it's 3-0 Cincinnati. 4th inning, Doran, Rio, and Martinez versus Brian Williams. Mentioned that the Astros were recently sold to Drayton McClain Jr. I don't know how much money he has, John, but when they told me that he was the 2nd largest stockholder in Walmart, that's all I needed to hear.
I'll tell you something else. The Astros, with only a $12 million payroll this year, are making a lot of money. They do have the lowest attendance in the majors. They just recently broke 1 million here at home. But this franchise has nowhere to go but up, and they've got a lot of young, exciting players. The least of which is not Phil Nevin, this year's #1 draft pick in the June draft. He's a third baseman in their minor league system. He's going to join their instructional league team this fall.
And Williams starts off on a bad foot here in the 4th inning, delivering a walk on 4 pitches to Bill Doran. And now Jose Rio comes up, probably with the intention to bunt, and the Astro bullpen will stir around, and looks as though Blair is going to go back down there and warm up some more. Willie Blair. 3-0 Reds here in the 4th. Could be a blessing having Bip Roberts out of the lineup for today, and who knows if he'll be able to bounce back tomorrow from the sore ankle, because Bip is starting to run out of gas and he needs a little time off here and there. So the Reds will try to get by without him today. But Piniella doesn't like to play any more shorthanded than he already has this season.
Well, and Bip just recently went in and complained to Lou that, you know, he's getting worn down playing so many different positions.
Rio gets the bunt down. It's perfect. And Williams pulls Candel off of first base. Everybody's safe, and an error on the pitcher.
Now, I can't tell you how many times you practice this play in spring training. Good job by Rio of killing the ball in front of the mound, and Williams, all he had to do, he had all kinds of time. It's hard to understand how you can't make a 50-foot throw, but Williams finds himself in another hole now here in the 4th inning.
That'll go as a sacrifice and an error on Brian Williams. And now here is Dave Martinez at the plate. And we'll see if that's going to be the case with Martinez. The bunt. He has singled and flied out to left field. None out here in the 4th inning. Hal Morris is on deck. So what is your strategic bent on this?
See, I anticipate a bunt here. I would have Martinez move these runners over. You've got the right-hander Willie Blair warming up in the bullpen. Of course, the right-handed Williams struggling. Of course, Lou Piniella doesn't agree with me. He's got Martinez swinging away. There's Willie Blair. You move these runners over, you have runners on 3rd and 2nd with 1 out. You have to probably play the infield in. It opens up the chance to get yourself an easy base hit and 2 RBIs.
Hal Morris, a left-handed hitter. So maybe Lou is thinking with a 3-0 lead, go ahead and let Martinez rip.
He's going to let him rip, try to go for the big inning. No sense in moving them up here. But I tell you what, you get another run here or 2 this inning, and that puts the game almost out of reach with a 5-0 lead. The Astrodome, not a great ballpark to hit in. It's hard to score runs here. The fences are deep. Ball doesn't carry.
Fences aren't as deep as they were last year. They decided to bring them back in.
See, Williams, that's not a good 0-2 pitch right there. Even though it was a fastball up, he's got to run that ball in on the fists on Martinez to set up anything else that he wants to do on the next pitch. With a fastball up and out over the plate, he didn't really accomplish anything with that pitch.
Piniella has had team meetings. He has peeled the paint in the clubhouse with tirades over poor play. It's going to be Finley for the catch, and the runners hold. Finley using his fine speed to get over there in the gap, and wasn't intimidated by Eric Anthony coming on.
We're seeing a great contrast in pitching here today in the veteran Jose Rijo and the rookie Brian Williams. Williams with a good arm and the good stuff. Out there throwing, struggling to stay ahead in the count. Ball up in the strike zone. Rijo taking apart the Astros with a variety of off-speed pitches.
Out of the reach of Candel, Anthony charges, throw to the plate. Doran is safe. So it's now 4-0. Barry Larkin. I don't know if he was injured and getting out of the way, or if he was hit by a piece of equipment. I'm not sure what happened to him. He's the next scheduled hitter.
Well, Barry Larkin was backing up home, coaching the runner at the plate,
Yeah.
which is what the on-deck circle hitter must do on a play at the plate. And he was positioned behind the catcher, Tabanzi, to coach Bill Doran, who was trying to score from second base. Now, whether or not he got stepped on, twisted his ankle getting out of the way of the play, or maybe Tabanzi threw a piece of equipment that hit him, I'm not sure, but it looks like an ankle sprain.
Now we're told that plate umpire Terry Tata, in the instance of safety reasons, picked up the bat and threw it out of the way. Little did he know he was going to hit Barry Larkin on the ankle with the bat.
See, now that reminds me, that can happen. If you get in there behind too close, the catcher sometimes throws his mask. You're throwing a bat away. Lou Piniella's not too happy about it. Let's see if we can pick this up. Here's Eric Anthony throwing to the plate. Pretty good throw, but it's too late to see where Larkin got hit. I remember playing catcher in college. My pitcher was backing up the plate on a play at the plate. I was holding my mask. As the ball was coming in, I fired the mask behind my back, had no idea where it was going. It hit my pitcher right in the face. He was down and out of the game. And it looks like Larkin has sustained a significant injury to his right ankle.
Well, I don't know how significant it is, since he's not going to use that little chair, the wheelchair, to go back into the clubhouse. And there is Terry Tata, who feels as bad about this as anybody. He must have fired that bat back awfully hard.
So in the heat of the moment, you know there's going to be a close play at the plate. The umpire has to run out. Usually the bat is out in front somewhere. Might be on the third base line, and that's why Terry ran back there, ran out to get the bat. Now he's got to run back and get in position. So he probably gave the bat a pretty good flip.
So Willie Green is preparing to come up and hit, and Freddie Benavides will go down the left field line and warm up to come into the game and play defense. But now Green will come up and hit for Barry Larkin. So it's just another in a long list of injuries for the Reds this year. Larkin has to come out of the game. Piniella at least has a 4-0 lead at this stage, but the Reds have had 12 different players on the disabled list this season, a total of 14 times. So the DL has been occupied by a lot of players, but a Red player every day this year.
Well, Willie Green is a tremendous young prospect. He's 21 years old. He came over to the Reds from Montreal in the Dave Martinez deal. He and Dave Martinez and Scott Ruskin came over for John Wetland and Bill Risley on December 11th, 1991. And Green put up some numbers this year. He had 27 home runs and 106 RBIs in 130 games this season. At Chattanooga and Cedar Rapids, he split his year up, started the year in A ball, and he is quite a young prospect. He's a left-handed hitting third baseman, guy with power.
And we have a pitching change. Willie Blair trotting on from the bullpen in right field, and Williams leaving. So the score is 4-0. The Reds on top. They lose Larkin here in the inning, and Green will hit. So Willie Blair comes on here in the 4th inning with the Astros trailing 4-0 to take the place of the starter Brian Williams. John?
Well, Willie Blair is a right-hander that came over in the Kenny Lofton deal from Cleveland. He came over with Eddie Taubensee for Kenny Lofton and Dave Rohde last offseason. And Blair is a guy, he's a finesse pitcher, a control guy. He's got 4 really below average velocity-wise major league pitches, but great command and a good idea of how to pitch and how to get people out. He'll run that fastball in and out, up and down, change speeds consistently, and if he's throwing strikes, if he's on, he'll be hitting the corners, and that's how he gets people out in the big leagues.
So now he faces Willie Green. 4 hits and 12 at bat so far in his brief amount of time in the major leagues. He's hitting for Barry Larkin. And if you're just now joining us, on the play at the plate involving Doran after the Morris single to right field, Larkin was standing near home directing the base runner to slide. Doran elected to come in standing, and it was Larkin who got hurt on the play because umpire Terry Tata, in the interest of safety, took the bat of Hal Morris and tossed it behind him to clear the area for the play of the plate, and didn't know Larkin was standing so close. And he hit Larkin on the right ankle, and Larkin had to be taken into the team room. And we'll get a further report and pass it along to you as soon as it's made available. One and 2 to Green, with runners at first and second and 1 out.
Green is really a tremendous prospect. It's not often that you find an infielder, a left-handed hitting infielder like him, with power. You can see by that swing, he's going to be a good one in the future.
If he makes contact.
Well, there's that good off-speed pitch from Willie Blair that we talked about. And Blair will move that around, set that pitch up. Here's the changeup. Down and away. Green out in front of the ball. Strike 3. Good piece of pitching by Willie Blair.
So now Chris Sabo, who has walked and grounded to shortstop. Cincinnati up 4-0 here in the 4th inning, in a place where they have not played well this year and lost 5 of the 7 games. And the Astros have lost 5 of the 7 in Cincinnati. On the count, and now 1-1 to Sabo. At DL for the Reds: Dibble, Sabo, Morris, Rijo, Larkin, Braggs, Reed, Hatcher, Sanders, Browning, Sanders again, Morris again, Swindell, and Coles. And the last 2 are current. Candell calling for it and takes it. A run on a hit. An error, remember, and 2 left. 4-0 Cincinnati to the bottom of the 4th we go. level, and it's 4-0 Cincinnati behind Jose Rijo, who is trying to win his first game this year against the Astros. He's 0-2, but his ERA coming in 3. So he hasn't gotten a lot of support, apparently. And the pitching line on Brian Williams.
Williams is 3 1/3 innings today, 4 runs, 4 earned runs, 6 hits, no strikeouts, and 3 walks. That's not a very good line for Brian. The biggest thing, 4 earned runs in 3 1/3, and that will bring his ERA up a little bit. Got to come out and throw strikes in the big leagues. Doesn't matter what kind of stuff you have. If you don't have some strikes going or something off speed, you're going to struggle.
New shortstop Freddie Benavides. As we move now to the 4th inning with Eric Anthony, Ken Caminetti, and Ernest Riles. Anthony is 1 for 1, singled first time. And his first big league game here, which happened to be on national television, he hit one into the upper deck. They have the seat painted up there in right field. And some people in the organization, John, were saying that's one of the worst things that could happen, because he was swinging for the fences all of the time and really never learned how to hit.
You get that young guy come up from the minor leagues. They hit that first pitch home run. Anthony flies out to center field on a good pitch down from Rijo. Jose Offerman from the Los Angeles Dodgers did the same thing. You get these guys come up and hit a home run on their first at bat. It takes them 2 years to recover.
Ken Caminetti at third base for the Astros at 3:09 coming in, and a fly ball to right field is only time. 4-0. The Reds are on top. There was speculation a few days ago about Caminetti's future with this team as the Astros try to build for the future, and using Caminetti as trade bait to, of course, stock up on pitching and that sort of thing. The Astros have a lot of middle infielders in their organization. They have drafted shortstops, for instance, very high last few years. And of course, John mentioned Bill Nevin, the third baseman, was chosen in the #1 slot in the recent draft in June. 2 outs. Here's Riles. Wheel and deal, the Astros.
Well, it's too early to count on Phil Nevin making a contribution. And Caminetti gets arbitration this winter. The Astros are afraid of that. They're looking at probably $3 million to sign him. So they probably don't have anybody on their roster at this time making that kind of money. Again, only $12 million payroll this year. Second lowest payroll in the big leagues to the Cleveland Indians.
And the line goes that they could move Bagwell back over to third base. Remember, Jeff Bagwell had to choose, hey, if you want to make the team, learn how to play first base last year, and he did that. Wound up becoming Rookie of the Year over at first. So they have certainly some flexibility. An appeal, and no is the answer from Joe West.
See, but I don't think they should get rid of Caminetti at this time. I think the Astros could be a contender as early as next year. Some of these young pitchers come around. Maybe they acquire a pitcher in the offseason or two. But they have the best bullpen in the major leagues statistically this year.
This will do it for the inning. 1, 2, 3, the Astro story here in the 4th versus Jose Rijo. At the end of 4, pull from the Dome, 4-0 Cincinnati. To the 5th inning we go from the Astrodome, 4-0 in favor of Cincinnati. I want to remind you about ESPN college football coverage. Thursday night, 7:45 Eastern Time, 4:45 in the West. And it's AP's 25th ranked team, BYU, versus San Diego State. The Aztecs nearly pulled a big upset this past weekend, wound up tying USC 31-31. And, of course, you can see that star running back Marshall Faulk already off to a very fine start at 220 yards versus the Trojans. So it's BYU and San Diego State, 7:45 Thursday on ESPN.
How about that Marshall Faulk? I believe he's a true sophomore, just 2 years out of high school. He's running crazy. I saw some clips on him yesterday.
One of the best.
Wow.
BYU trying to continue on without the services of Ty Detmer at quarterback. And Ty, to the surprise and delight of a lot of people, actually made the Packers team this year as the third quarterback. 2-0 the count to Glenn Braggs. 4 runs and 6 hits for Cincinnati. No runs, 2 hits and an error for Houston. And Willie Blair came on in the 4th to take over for starter Brian Williams. They get word from downstairs. Barry Larkin still being checked after being struck accidentally by a bat being cleared away from the home plate area by Terry Tata in anticipation of a play at the plate. And Larkin was hit on the ankle, had to be taken out of the game and into the clubhouse.
The leadoff walk. Isn't it terrible to walk the leadoff batter? Here Willie Blair comes out, walks Glenn Braggs. Got to go right after that first guy. He scores most of the time if you walk him.
I saw Blair put his hand to his mouth a couple of times. You can do that as long as you're not on the mound. And in certain circumstances, cold weather and the like, shot and across too late. You get permission from the umpire, and they'll allow you to blow on your hand. If you put your hand to your mouth while on the mound, it'll cost you a ball.
Joe Oliver swinging the bat as good as you can swing it. Here he turns on a first pitch fastball on the inside half, lines it right at Ken Caminetti. Caminetti, one of the better defensive third basemen in baseball. Johnny on the spot grabs that ball, and he's got a very strong arm down there at third. Key guy on this Astros club. I don't see them getting rid of him.
Well, the term getting rid has such a negative connotation because they would be using him as bait to get to improve the team over the long run. A little bobble out there in center, but Braggs holds on at second anyway. Finley had a momentary lapse, but got a hold of the ball again and got it back in.
Maybe that's the wrong term to use, getting rid of. Caminetti certainly could command a starting pitcher. Or, you know.
And a top prospect.
And a top prospect. He's one of the better players at that position in the National League.
Now we're told from downstairs, Larkin has been checked. Bruise on the outside of the right ankle. He is listed as day-to-day after being struck by the bat thrown by Terry Tata. Well, that's a strange injury. Now, you've been around a long time and have, you know, one of my favorite strange injuries we haven't seen this year is the fellow cutting his hand, slicing a roll. That was the normal one. Year in and year out, you'd hear about that. Probably to cover up something else. What about any strange injuries that you can recall?
I'm trying to think right now. We had a guy that was always hurt on our team, Tommy Hausman. He was a pitcher, played for the New York Mets in the late 70s and 80s. I remember one time he spent about 60 days on the DL, got in his first game back as reliever, as Billy Doran drives this ball to right center.
So another run for Cincinnati as Braggs checks in. Doran, who had tripled earlier, walked, now drives in a run. 5-0, the Reds on top.
Billy Doran here sitting on this ball, and he just is really in a groove today. That's a triple and a single and a walk in 3 at-bats. Hits the ball hard. Now runners on first and second. Ken Caminetti comes in and talks to Willie Blair.
So what happened to the injury for the pitcher,
Well,
Hausman?
Tommy Hausman came back in his first game back from a 60-day stint on the DL. He got into a weird rundown play at third base and ended up throwing his back out, got into collision over there, and went right back on the DL. I thought that was kind of funny. We all had a good laugh, and believe me, we made life miserable for him around the clubhouse.
Here's Jose Rijo, who has singled, sacrificed, reached on an error as an RBI. Now we're taking requests for unusual injuries, and somebody just handed us a note about Charlie Kerfeld eating ribs in the bullpen in '86 and kind of choked a little bit. Charlie still trying to work his way back to the majors after having a short but a very lively career with the Astros. How about earlier this year, Dave Otto, I believe the pitcher for the Cleveland Indians, pulled a leg muscle when he was getting out of a chair in the bullpen to run in to join a fight on the mound. He went on the DL because of that.
See, I don't understand these injuries today. There's much more injuries than there were in the past. I mean, before guaranteed contracts came into play, you didn't see guys getting out of there. Now here's the Astros with the first and second bunt defense on, with Jose Rijo, the pitcher, hitting. Runners on first and second with one out. Caminetti way in. There's Caminetti in. Try to set up the pickoff play. Make that runner at second think that there's a play on with Caminetti going. O'Neill just about picked off. Not a good base running play by O'Neill, because as you grow up in professional baseball, all of these plays become apparent to you. Everybody has them. And in the minor leagues, you use them all the time. So if you're a runner at second base, there's no way you can get picked off in this situation.
So another error on a ball bunted by Jose Rijo for the second inning in a row. Reds get another run. Another sacrifice for Rijo, and on the error charged to Blair, the runners move along. Doran around to third base, and O'Neill all the way in to score.
Okay, here's the bunt. Now Rijo does a pretty good job, although Ken Caminetti should have gone back to third base. Now that took away the option for Willie Blair to go to third. Blair came up, bobbled the ball, had plenty of time at first base. I don't know why Casey Candell missed that ball. But Caminetti, who was in at third, should have gotten back to the bag there. They could have gotten the force play at third base.
6-0 Cincinnati. So now it's first and third for Dave Martinez, who has flied out, singled, and then flied out again. But with the increased salaries for the players, of course, now you're seeing injuries such as what we had earlier this year, with the player slipping as he was entering his hot tub at home.
See, I remember a few pulled rib cage muscles, but never anything like this year.
One stride delivery coming up to Martinez. Let's see, other unusual injuries that you can recall. You know, the pulled muscles and the like, combing your hair and all that sort of thing.
I'd like to see at least a home plate collision before a guy has to leave on the disabled list. Something along that nature.
First and third for the Reds. 1-1 the count. One out. 2 runs home, and it's 6-0 Cincinnati here in the fifth.
Of course, I spent a long time on the disabled list at the end of my career. I was warming up for infield one night in Shea Stadium, and it was breezy out. And I made a throw, and I felt a twinge in my elbow, and I felt some fibers pulling off the bone. I should have shut it down right there, but tried to play with that for 6 weeks. By the time I was done playing, I could never get it back. I had 3 minor type surgeries on my elbow and could never throw again without pain.
Trying to play the hero again.
Should have shut it down. Should have shut it down. Cost me a lot of money and several years playing in the big leagues.
3 balls, 1 strike. First and third for Dave Martinez. Let's see if the Astros can turn 2. They don't. Another run. Close at first base. And checking in is Doran.
Let's take a look. Casey Candel does a pretty good job on the lead throw. Cedeno, a little hesitation at second. Good call by first base umpire Steve Ripley. He's on the spot. Cedeno gives him the eyeball, but he was on there, had the call right. Not quite smooth enough between Candel and Cedeno. Of course, they're not out there together too much.
7-0 Reds. And we'll watch Martinez to see if the Reds keep the pressure on. Al Morris at the plate. Well, Martinez stays put. We had an unusual injury, I believe it was yesterday, with Mike Harkey, pitcher for the Chicago Cubs. You know, he's had arm problems and has had major surgery, but he tore up his knee going down the steps of the dugout. So he's going to have surgery for that. Just walking, slipped. This one is trapped. And runners will be on first and third as Martinez goes all the way around. No one throwing in the Astro bullpen, if you're wondering. I think it's don't want to say that the Astros have conceded this, but and now they're going to get some throwing. But they're down 7-0.
Luis Gonzalez made a nice pick in left field. He was going for the catch, couldn't quite get there. That ball gets by him, you're going to see maybe an inside the park home run, at least a triple.
Joe Baber is going to warm in the bullpen now for Houston with 2 outs. Joe hasn't even thrown a pitch yet. Strike delivered into Freddie Benavides, who is hitting in the number 3 position in the order, formerly occupied by Barry Larkin, who had to come out after being hit on the right ankle, outside of the right ankle, by a thrown bat from plate umpire Terry Tata just before play at the plate. Larkin was in position to direct the base runner coming in and simply was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Tata fired the bat away and hit him flush on the ankle. Earlier in the year, Tony Gwynn of the Padres supposedly was on his way to the bank and closed his hand in the car door. That'll do it for the inning. 3 more runs for the Reds, and at the halfway point from the Dome, it's 7-0 Cincinnati. And it's 7-0 Cincinnati on 9 base hits. Houston, no runs and 2 hits. Special Labor Day baseball for you on ESPN. And Paul Olden here, along with John Stearns from the Astrodome. They're soliciting people here in the press box about unusual injuries, and I think Bob Watson, the assistant general manager of the Astros, will feed us one in a moment. He said just over his thinking, John, he couldn't think of anything more offbeat than the one Larkin suffered here a few moments ago, as Cedeno flies out to shallow shortstop, or deep shortstop. Shallow left field. Ed Taubensee in the box. Astros going to have a pretty large contingent for winter ball, and that continues the year-round development for a lot of these players, including Gonzalez and Anthony. Over O'Neill's head for extra bases, and Taubensee has himself a double.
Now, this is what they were looking for from Ed Taubensee when they made that deal with Cleveland in the offseason. Here's Rijo on a 1-0 pitch. He throws a fastball on the outside half. Taubensee goes down and drives this ball out to the right center field gap over O'Neill's head. Taubensee's got good power, and you don't find left-handed hitting catchers that can drive the ball like Taubensee. That's why his stock is high. At 23 years of age, he's a big, strong guy that, you know, you have a left-handed hitting catcher, then you can carry a right-handed hitting catcher and have a platoon situation. They're just hard to come by, and that's why they have such high value.
Pete Incaviglia is going to come up and hit now in the number 9 position in the batting order, hitting for Willie Blair. And then Joe Baver will be on to pitch in the 6th inning. It's 7-0 right now. The Reds on top. And a 1-out double by Taubensee, and Incaviglia stands in his first year with the Astros. A respectable .269 with 10 home runs and 40 RBIs. 90 strikeouts, however. 324 at-bats. In his last 4 starts, Jose Rijo has gone 7 innings and no more.
Just read a piece in the paper today. The Astros have elected not to renew their option on Inky for next year. It was in the paper. Apparently he's signed for 1.5. Now, trying to figure out how that works, because he was released out of spring training, and no, he went to Houston as a minor league free agent. He was a minor league free agent, signed in the offseason, made the club coming out of spring training. But he's one of those guys where, you know, you got to pay a lot of money to, and the Astros are going to go with their younger outfielders, Gonzalez, Anthony, and Steve Finley.
And devote the money they would be paying to the likes of an Incaviglia to somebody else. Maybe a veteran pitcher. Who knows if the trade is, in fact, consummated in the offseason involving any of the young players.
Well, they can use that money, but here's what's happening in baseball to the 2nd tier or 3rd tier type of player like Incaviglia, who gets that money up there too high, up around $1 million or over $1 million. They're going to end up getting released. He's going to have to come all the way back down to reality to continue his career.
A lot of players will do that.
If they're smart, they will.
Yeah. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Of course, they can always get a bank job or those car wash jobs that pays $500,000–600,000.
Yeah, they could punch in, work 8–9 hours a day for all year for $18–19,000 a year, or they could come all the way back down to $200,000, $300,000, or $400,000 and continue to play in the big leagues.
2 balls and 2 strikes. And that's it for Inky. Comes up as a pinch hitter and winds up being called out on strikes. And now he's set to walk away.
Well, let's take a look at this pitch. Now Joe Oliver sets up 2 inches outside. Rijo paints the corner. If it did get the corner, Inky didn't like the call. He cannot believe it. We've talked before, Tata, with that big wide strike zone for Jose Rijo. Apparently it's not there on the other side, and now Tata is throwing someone out. He's going to throw Inky out. Inky's going to get his money's worth. There's Artie Howe trying to keep him from getting into more trouble.
Now, since this is a family show, we've shut off our field microphone for the next couple of moments. Incaviglia was fine when he walked away from home plate. He muttered something to Terry Tata, who said something back, but he didn't show up the umpire. But when he got to the dugout, he had a lot more to say, and Tata, with a short fuse, decided he was not going to take it.
Tata, again, we mentioned him earlier being in that controversy a couple nights ago with Eddie Murray. Now he throws the bat and hits Larkin. And now he's ejecting Inky on a questionable call down and away. He's having a rough time.
So Casey Candell stands in, still waiting for a pitch to be made his way. Out to second base, and Doran, and that's it for the inning. Astros are denied and lose Incaviglia in the process. Kicked out after arguing a called third strike. After 5 innings from the Dome, it's the Reds 7, the Astros nothing. The Cincinnati Reds on top of the Astros. I want to remind you about our coverage, doubleheader coverage tomorrow night, Tuesday on ESPN. First game will pit the Cubs on the road at Three Rivers versus the Pirates. And then our nightcap will have the Padres and the Giants. So the Cubs and Pirates in game 1, and the Cubs with a very outside chance there in the East, but they better start putting the streak together. And the Pirates just trying to hold on to what they have on top of the division. Meanwhile, the Padres and Giants, Padres still in the hunt in the National League West, but just barely 7 games out beginning today's play, and they were just a half game back of the Reds, and the Giants are just finishing out the season. This is what got Incaviglia kicked out, John.
That's a close pitch. I mean, with 2 strikes, you try to paint the black, and Inky screaming from the bench. He's not sure why he was thrown out. Tata obviously with a short fuse throwing him out of that game. Inky didn't think he had to do it.
And now Sabo is hit by the first pitch from Joe Baver, who comes on. So Sabo is over at first after being hit, and now coming up to home plate is Glenn Braggs.
Baver having a good year as a right-handed setup man for the Astros. A 2.71 ERA is the key. Opponents hitting .249 against him. And he's got 68 appearances. He's been very strong. Look for the straight change. He's got a palm ball changeup that he tries to set up with the fastball and the slider. And his best pitch is that off-speed change.
Reds up 7-0 here in the 6th. And 1-1 is the count. Runner at first base, Chris Sabo, hit by the pitch. First one delivered here in the 6th inning by the 3rd Astro hurler, Joe Baver, attended UNLV. Member of the Hustling Rebels baseball team, as opposed to the Running Rebels basketball team. The Hustling Rebels, the baseball team.
He used to be Baver the Saver, and now they moved him to a setup man.
Yeah. Braggs under this one, a high fly, carrying but not far enough. And that's the first out.
Well, I mentioned those Astros relievers. They're 30-21 on the year with a 2.93 ERA. They have really turned things around in this Houston bullpen. There's Louis Gonzalez going back deep to retire Glenn Braggs, but of course Doug Jones with 31 saves in 35 attempts. He's leading the way out there.
Joe Oliver at the plate. Joe flied out to deep left, singled and lined out. They were talking to Astros assistant general manager Bob Watson between innings, and he came up with a more unusual injury than the Barry Larkin injury earlier in this game. High foul off third, it'll drift out of play. And he was saying that when Cesar Cedeno was here, no relation to Andujar Cedeno, but when Cesar Cedeno was playing with the Astros several years ago, he was wearing one of those gold necklaces with a medallion attached, and Cedeno decided to steal second base, took off, and in the jumble hustling down to second base, the medallion came up and cut Cedeno over the right eye. Needed 3 stitches. I don't know if he got the bag or not, but he needed medical attention.
The question is, did he get fined by that? I know Bill Verdon was the manager then. He would have just loved that. never could figure out those guys with all the gold that they used to carry around.
Oh, like you never wore any. Anthony will fire to third, and the play gets away. It hit the runner Sabo, so down to second base goes Oliver. I think it hit him. The ball got on course somehow. Well, the third error of the evening.
If I was an outfielder, I'd hate to get an error on this. Anthony makes a great throw right on the money. Nothing you can do. It hits the runner, gets away, and Oliver into second base. Anthony gets charged with an error. Good aggressive base running by Chris Sabo, and that's when you do that, something like that. When you have a 7-0 lead, you can take chances on the bases.
So that's the 10th hit of the game for Cincinnati, and the Astros have the infield in, trailing 7-0. We're in the 6th from the Dome. And Bell gets it over there while the runners hold. Oliver remains on second base, and over at third is Sabo.
Nothing more frustrating than grounding out with the infield in. It's a chance to score an easy RBI, and what you try to do in that situation is hit the ball up the middle. If the ball's away, you want to loft this fly ball to center. This time, O'Neill got out in front of that ball and grounded out to the second baseman.
So they'll walk Doran and pitch to Rio, who is getting ready to come up. Rio has been on base 3 times today. He has singled and scored, then sacrificed in the 4th and 5th innings, and on each sacrifice, a throwing error was committed by the pitcher.
I'm not so sure at this point Rio wants to get on base anymore. Please get me out so I can go out and pitch. I don't want to run the bases anymore.
Sabo, Oliver, and Doran. And Rio just now coming up to home plate, having a conversation with the young deck hitter, Dave Martinez. Wonder if he was asking about the pitcher, Baber, or where are we going to go have dinner after the game? Greg Swindell still on the DL with a rib injury. In fact, he had just been activated before today's game, so he's off the DL. Activated just about 2-3 hours ago.
Afternoon as Major League Baseball commissioner 4 days after a vote of no confidence from the Major League owners. His action comes 2 days before a meeting in St. Louis, which most expected to lead to his outright firing. Vincent had retained noted counsel Brendan Sullivan, anticipating a court battle over the powers of his office. Instead, today, he said he hoped that his resignation would be his final act in the best interests of baseball. Vincent, in his letter of resignation, saying that I bear no personal ill will towards any of the owners, and I wish them well. At the same time, I remind all that ownership of a baseball team is more than ownership of an ordinary business. Owners have a duty to take into consideration that they own a part of America's national pastime in trust. This trust sometimes requires putting self-interest second. Peter Gammons joins us live on Cape Cod in Massachusetts. Peter, why did Fay Vincent choose this time right now to resign?
All I can hear is the phone being dialed.
Well, some difficulties with Peter Gammons. We hope to reestablish communications. In the last several days, the indications had been that Fay Vincent might have been assessing the damage that a potential legal battle would have on the game of baseball, which he has spoken so eloquently of his love, but he has this afternoon tendered his resignation. We will have more on the issues and speak with Peter, we promise you, on SportsCenter at 7:30 Eastern Time, or at the conclusion of this game. Let's now return you to your game on ESPN.
Back with you in the 7th inning, and it's 7-0. The Reds on top. Ernest Riles, Andujar Cedeno, and Ed Taubensee facing Jose Rio, who is just cruising along, John.
Rijo in complete command of this ball game from the first inning on. He's throwing a shutout into the 7th. Just 2 walks and 3 strikeouts. He's just letting those guys, letting the defense work behind him. Not trying to strike everybody out. Mixing up his pitch selection and changing speeds. Get the feeling he knows exactly what he's doing out there.
The Reds are sending Greg Swindell to the bullpen. And, John, this could be a chance to get Greg back in there, get him some throwing versus game action in a game that's not really on the line here.
See, this is I don't know whether he's going down there to just get some throwing in or you know, get back in and get an inning or 2 before he makes his next start. But this is the perfect kind of a game to get a guy back from the disabled list. It's a game where 7-0, he can come into the game if Rio's pitch count gets too high and throw an inning and get himself ready to go.
So 1 strike the count to Andujar Cedeno. Outside target set. A little too far outside, so 1-1. Ball, 1 strike.
Rijo now going more to the fastball. First 5 or 6 innings, he was throwing a lot of split fingers and breaking balls. He's going now with a 7-0 lead. He knows he's got these guys, and he's coming with the fastball a lot more. There's the slider. Pretty good pitch.
2 balls and 2 strikes.
Here's Rijo now. He's changing his pitching style completely from the first 3 innings. He's going to the cheese now. He blows away Andujar Cedeno with that high fastball.
So with 2 outs, Toppensee is in there. We had the score 7-0. The Reds on top. So the big story in baseball, not the pennant races, but Commissioner Fay Vincent resigning earlier today. And of course, throughout the night, we'll keep you posted and updated fully, of course, with reaction and the next step as to who will assume the position of commissioner. 2 balls and no strikes. Juan Guerrero is on deck, and he'll come up and swing the bat after that walk. Lupanella very much aware of the pitch count for Jose Rijo, and the 3rd walk of the game for Rijo. That's the most he's walked in the game in a long time. Now, the information sheet provided to us, they go back 9 starts, and he has not walked any more than 2 in any one game since the 28th of August. One ball, no strikes.
Juan Guerrero was a Rule 5 pickup by the Astros in the offseason, which means he was left unprotected on the San Francisco Giants 40-man roster. The Astros drafted him, and to keep his rights, the Astros have to keep him in the big leagues all year. He really needs to be in AAA playing. They're going to keep him up here all year, and Artie Howe getting him into the game now in a blowout game. Puts him in at 3rd, gives Caminetti a rest.
Rijo now, John, appears to be suddenly laboring a little bit after striking out Riles and Cedeno, who probably struck themselves out really by going after pitches out of the strike zone. And now back-to-back walks. That's a bad sign for Lou Piniella.
Rijo's out of gas, and Piniella knows that. Here comes Rothschild, Larry Rothschild, pitching coach, out to see Rijo. One thing that Rothschild told me before the game, Rijo, his endurance is not there. He still has that tender arm. He still complains of that tender arm. And he says that the fastball is what causes it to be tired and sore more than the other pitches, and that's one of the reasons he's gone to the split finger and the slider as much as he has.
Swindell appears ready, if his standing there with his hands on his hips is any indication. And now back to the top of the order, and Casey Candell, runners at first and second. We'll see if Rijo can get out of the 7th inning, needing one more out to put another 7 upon his record. He went 6 innings versus the Dodgers on the 13th of August. But since the 28th of July, it's been all 7-inning stints. Astros only have 3 hits in the game.
There's that off-speed pitch to Casey Candell. Swindell, if he comes into this ball game as a reliever, it will be only the 2nd time in his career that he's entered as a reliever. Been a starter his whole career.
And the word is swing down there at third base. So Rijo winds up striking out the side and walking 2 at the end of 7 innings. It's Cincinnati 7 and Houston Astrodome, and it's 7-0 Cincinnati. 7 runs and 10 hits for the Reds. No runs, 3 hits, and 3 errors for the Houston Astros. Sabo, Braggs, and Oliver to face Al Osuna, who is beginning his 2nd inning of work. Again, we'll update you, continue to update you on the big story today. Commissioner Fay Vincent opting to resign after John appearing to be very steadfast in his notion that he would not give up the office.
I think he got a nice financial settlement, probably to resign. Of course, that goes without saying, but I think that's probably a reason why he took the stance that he did early. Probably decided it wasn't worth fighting if the owners wanted him out of there.
1 ball and 1 strike to Sabo. And Sabo racking this one into left field for a base hit. So 11 hits on the board for Cincinnati. But the Reds will play 2 here and then go to Atlanta for 2 more on this road trip. Then head out to San Diego for 3 games over the weekend. Take next Monday off and open up at home 3 with the Atlanta Braves on the 15th of September, followed by 3 with the Padres and a couple with the Astros. One ball, no strikes. Braggs been on base once and scored a run. That was because of a walk in the 5th inning. Meanwhile, Greg Swindell continues to warm up in the bullpen, which would lead one to indicate that he will come out and pitch in the 8th inning. Swindell activated from the disabled list today. Two balls and two strikes. So Tom Browning, of course, is gone for the entire season, but getting Swindell back is the first step, John, towards making that strong run to the close.
Well, they need him back, you know, and this is a good opportunity without having to throw him out there in his first start. He can get in now. They probably want to use him for 30 to 40 pitches maximum. Of course, he's been pitching on the side all along. He can get in now and get his feet wet. Lou probably wants him back in the rotation as early as the next time around.
Joe Oliver, a couple of base hits tonight, and he has hit the ball hard those other two times when he made an out. Sabo at first base. And one away. 7-0 Cincinnati here in the 8th. Here's Swindell preparing to come out and pitch in the 8th inning. Now, I've noticed it more this year, John, than any other season, that many players have decided, instead of going to the minors for a rehabilitation stint, they decide to waive that and stay in the majors and work their way back.
See, that's a management decision as far as I'm concerned. Some of these players, you know, they shouldn't have any problem with going down to a AAA game and putting in a couple of appearances just to get back. It's hard to come off the DL and jump right into a major league game and perform at your level of expectation.
Shallow center, Cedeno out and Finley on. Finley.
Of course, now we're getting to a point of time in the year where you don't have the minor leagues available for any rehab assignments. Most of the minor leagues are over at this point. They're in the playoffs.
Good point.
So Swindell, you know, maybe he could have gone down last week, but apparently he wasn't quite ready.
Now the plate, Paul O'Neill with a runner at first base and 2 outs. It's the high strike. So Lou Piniella playing shorthanded all year long, and you can really draw a parallel between this team, John, and the Oakland Athletics playing shorthanded as well. And we'll get into that when we come back. How the two teams have coped with all their injuries and roster moves. Here in the 8th inning, no runs, a hit. No errors and a man left. 7-0 Reds. So Greg Swindell activated off the disabled list today. Now we'll get a chance to get some throwing in versus live action as he replaces Jose Rijo, who goes his usual 7 innings.
Swindell has established himself as the ace of this staff this year. He just came over from Cleveland for Jack Armstrong, Scott Scudder, and Joe Turek November of last offseason. He's delivered the goods for the Reds. 12-6 with a 2.58, 188 innings, and even with this stint on the disabled list, he's going to get 200 innings in this year. He's averaged well over 200 innings each of the last 5 years pitching for the Cleveland Indians.
Gerald Young now is going to stand in and hit for Steve Finley to start out the 8th inning. I mentioned that Art Howe decided to rest a couple of his regulars. Jeff Bagwell and second baseman Craig Biggio. They did not start today, and we haven't seen him. Easy out, one away. Swindell last appeared in relief back in 1987 with the Cleveland Indians. A variety of injuries that year, including a hit on the hand by a Wade Boggs line drive. So now here he is, his second relief stint in his lengthy career. Texas native. And now Gonzalez stands in 0 for 3 for Luis.
Swindell, another pitcher, excellent control. This year in 188 innings, only 36 base on balls to go along with 119 strikeouts. And last year for the Indians, 31 walks in 238 innings. That's flat going after people. Make them hit. Let your defense go to work for you.
One and one. A little over 12,000 fans here in the Astrodome today. At the height of the attendance, now it's dwindled once again, with the fans bailing out, going to barbecues and the like. Here on Labor Day. 1-2 is the count to Luis Gonzalez. Oh, call that strike 3 on the check.
Third base umpire Joe West calls Luis Gonzalez out on this swing. Tough call there. Joe West on the line. He's got the best angle. Nasty slider down and away from Swindell. He's tough on lefties. Watch how he moves that fastball in and out. That hard slider, good off-speed pitch. Overhand curveball. There's the slow curve. Now that will set up the hard slider. Milton Hill down in the bullpen for the Reds, getting loose. Just going to let Swindell go probably 1 inning and have Hill come in and pitch the 9th.
0-2 the count to Anthony. Goodbye. 1-2-3
Wow.
inning for Greg Swindell. Makes quick work of his short relief stint, his second since April 15th, 1987. 7-0 Reds. Here at Houston, it's 7-0. The Reds on top. And Billy Doran beginning matters for Cincinnati, who has tripled, walked, singled, and was walked intentionally. And Rob Malakote now is on the mound.
Malakote, another one of those good left-handed arms out of the bullpen for the Astros. He struggled a little bit this year, but he's a solid guy for the future. 27 years old, got a live fastball, curveball, slider, and changeup, knows how to pitch. Everybody in baseball is looking for left-handers with good arms like this kid.
Two balls, one strike to Doran in the 9th inning for the Astros. Guerrero, Riles, and Cedeno are scheduled to hit. But remember, they have Bagwell on the bench. They have Biggio on the bench, but they're down 7-0.
Big story with Malakote. He missed 2 complete seasons earlier in his career, 1988 and 89. He had left shoulder rotator cuff surgery. Missed 2 years. He's come all the way back now to the big leagues and throwing good.
So a hitter in the number 9 position for the Cincinnati Reds. With 1 out here in the top of the 9th inning, Geronimo Baroa. And Doran not being held on at first base. Baroa, couple of base hits, 9 at-bats. began today's play, 6.5 games out. This one getting away, and down to second base goes Doran. So don't forget, on Wednesday here on ESPN, you can see the first of 2 games between the Reds and the Braves. Wednesday and Thursday, that series, after the Reds play a 2-game series here today and tomorrow. And then it's out to San Diego over the weekend for Cincinnati. And versus the Padres, the Reds have split 12 games.
Reds called up Arroyo on August 29th, which is significant because it qualifies him for postseason play. He was leading the American Association at the Reds AAA Farm Club Nashville. He was hitting .328, had 22 home runs and 88 RBIs on the year. They called him up. Thought they could use his bat.
Right where it is on ESPN, Blue Jays and Kansas City. Immediately following our ball game between the Reds and Houston at 7-0 Cincinnati. We're in the top of the 9th inning. How about George Brett yesterday for the Kansas City Royals? An inside the park home run at his age. This one popping away, and so the runner advances, or yeah.
Did you see the picture of him in the dugout after he hit that inside the Parker?
Yeah.
It looked like he needed some oxygen in there.
He said he ran out of gas as soon as he hit first base.
Oh, my goodness.
So the runner goes back to second base. Runners at first and second. Now Dave Martinez stands in his last at bat today. George Brett going after 3,000 base hits, of course. He still has a little bit of a ways to go, but Robin Yount will probably get his 3,000th hit very, very soon. He's just 3 away. The ironic thing is Milwaukee's playing Cleveland. The ironic thing is that he got base hit number 1,000 against the Indians and base hit number 2,000 against the Indians. There's Bip Roberts. He looks like he's ready to go, John.
The Bipster. I'll tell you, a day off will give you so much relaxment. I mean, he looks loose and loosey-goosey. There's a lot of mental strain playing every day in the big leagues. You've got to go up and face that pitcher every day. Get a day off here and there. It really does a lot for your brain. Gives you a nice rest. You can relax mentally. Let it all hang down, and he doesn't have to play today because the Reds have jumped out to a big lead here.
Of course, his day off is not so much imposed by Lou Piniella out of the kindness of his heart, but yesterday, Bip Roberts going into the fence, trying to catch a ball, hit over his head, and suffered an ankle injury. So as soon as Bip is ready to come back, but then it's day-to-day situation for Barry Larkin earlier in the game. Larkin was directing traffic at home plate on a play at the plate. He was trying to weigh Bill Doran down to slide, and just before he got into position about 12 feet behind home plate umpire Terry Tata, picking up the bat from the hitter, blindly threw it behind him and hit Larkin right on the right ankle. It's a bruise, and Larkin is day-to-day. Two balls and 2 strikes. 2 on. 7-0 Cincinnati. Malico pitching as if it's the bottom of the 9th inning in Game 7 of the World Series. In the air, down into the corner. This is trouble, and this is high off the wall. And bounding away from Anthony. So the Reds will get 2 more runs on a double by Dave Martinez. Nothing Cincinnati.
One of those days for the Astros. Martinez gets a 2-2 fastball inside. If I'm a left-handed pitcher, no way do I let a lefty do that to me on a fastball. I've got to drop down, throw him a slider, a breaking ball, something, get him out in front, come in off the plate inside with a fastball. Good job of hitting by Martinez with 2 outs. He turned on the ball on the inner half.
Al Morris, the batter, with an RBI on the ledger tonight, along with a couple of singles, a walk, fly out, and a ground out. Rob Malico here in the 9th inning. You're told by Astro management that Malico, among several players who will be going to Venezuela in the offseason for winter ball experience. One ball and 1 strike.
You can see what Malico he's just up there throwing the ball. He doesn't have much of an idea. A lot of balls riding up and in to the left-hander. Look how far off the plate Morris is. I don't think he could touch the outside corner if Malico would throw it out there.
Instead, made it very hittable. Anthony back as the runner Martinez tags at second base and moves on the catch.
Malico obviously struggling with his breaking ball, just going mostly with hard stuff. A few hard sliders. He's got to come up with some kind of off-speed pitch or breaking ball. Hal Morris gets a fastball in the inner half, and Malico's lucky this ball's still in the yard.
Freddie Benavides for his 3rd at bat, and he has struck out twice since replacing the injured Barry Larkin in the 4th inning. 1 ball, no strikes, and a man at 3rd base, Dave Martinez. The score is 9-0 Cincinnati. Ball, 1 strike. Scheduled hitters in the 9th inning for the Astros: Guerrero, Riles, and Cedeno. They'll probably hit, unless Art Howe wants to get a couple of his regulars who didn't play today a swing. Bagwell and Caminiti. Dan Wilson will be in to pitch in the 9th. I think I said he'd be in to pitch. He'd be in to hit, of course. Milton Hill will be in to pitch.
Well, that's Dan Wilson. He's the Reds' #1 pick in the 1990 draft. Wilson's going to come in, be his major league debut. He was in my league last year in the Southern League. Good-looking catcher, can hit a little bit. We'll see plenty of him in the future. Malicote going with 2 pitches, no command, and no idea. Basically the same speed, hard fastball, hard slider.
Runner at third base, 1 out here in the top of the 9th inning. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Hurry up and get out of here. The next Republican convention is going to be ready to move.
Malicote dropping down now, coming to the side a little bit. He's got to stay up on top, get on top of the ball. On his front leg, or the leg he strides out on, if he's hitting out on that heel, it means he's throwing uphill and trying to work over his front shoulder. He's got to land more toward his toe, which will bring him up on top. It'll bring that back shoulder up. He can get on top of that fastball and bring it down into the zone. Got to like this kid's arm, though. Look at the ball pop. Look at the ball zip on that fastball. There he dropped down that time. The ball rode upstairs on him. Doesn't look like he's had rotator cuff surgery and missed 2 full seasons. He's throwing very free and easy.
First and third, 1 out. Another high strike called by plate umpire Terry Tata, which is fine by us.
Come on, Rob, you can get through this one. How about a ground ball double play? Chris, no offense.
Out of the reach of Guerrero at third and down the line into the corner. And the Reds make it 10-0. Sabo's second hit of the game.
Sabo says, yeah, I want that hit, and I want that extra RBI, too. He does a good job hitting that breaking ball down and in. Malicote, just 2 pitches. Unless you're very fine with 2 pitches, moving in and out, major league hitter is going to feast on you.
So Glenn Bragg stands in with runners at first and third. And Wilson is now in the on-deck circle. And he is confidently taken off those shin guards. Ten runs and 13 hits for the Reds. And we're in the 9th. Greg Swindell coming off the disabled list and pitched a 1-2-3 8th inning. So the Reds very happy to have him back. Bip Roberts was rested today because of a sore ankle. Well, then the Reds lost Barry Larkin to a bruised ankle, and he is on a day-to-day basis. So if it's not one thing, it's another, it seems, for the Reds.
When they need everybody healthy right now for this stretch drive. 5 big games coming up with the Braves, as we mentioned.
Benavidez and Sabo, the runners. You know, we meant to get back to what I was talking about earlier, how the comparison between the A's and the Reds and how they have coped, how the managers have coped with the respective injuries of the team. You know, Piniella, I think it's safe to say, is a much more volatile personality. This one will rebound, so the runner at third stays, and Sabo moves on the wild pitch. And you never really hear of Tony La Russa lately, really going off the handle and reading his team the riot act, as Piniella has done already this season. But you have a team that has coped with all kinds of adversity And the A's on top of the American League West, whereas the Reds have struggled. And Piniella sometimes has shown the strength.
I think Piniella has done a great job considering all the injuries this year. It's got them in position to make a run. Malacote, with 33 pitches in the inning, only 1 out.
I don't know if he hurt himself or not, and that's what they're checking to see.
He really dropped down, ball rode upstairs on him. He threw it to the screen. Artie Howe doesn't want to take any chances here. Malacote looks like he wants to stay in the game. You're right, Tony La Russa has done a great job in the American League with the Oakland A's, Paul. You know, they just made that big trade for Canseco, but they've been without him for much of the season. Ricky Henderson was down quite a bit. Dave Henderson has been out all year. Seems like the Oakland A's were very competitive all year long, even with all of those injuries. Now Mark McGuire is out. They need him back. Be interesting to see what happens with Ruben Sierra over there in that lineup. Now, if they can get Sierra healthy, Ricky Henderson healthy, David Henderson healthy, Jeff Russell, the Eckersley, looks like they might just roll.
We'll see if Malacote can stay in. Off-speed delivery, and it's going to be a playable ball. 2 outs. And now Wilson is going to come up and make his major league debut. Dan Wilson. Looks like he could add a few more pounds, though, John, to play catcher in the big leagues.
Yeah, he's a slim kid. He's a good prospect. They like him in Cincinnati. He's got line drive, gap power. He can drive the ball out. Does a good job behind the plate. He struggled a little bit this year in Nashville AAA. It was a big step up for him. He hit .251 with 4 homers and 34 RBIs in 106 games. It's funny, when I was playing, if you put those numbers up in AAA, rarely did you get the call.
Standards are a little lower these days, and the state of moving players around, especially young players, is such that they don't hang around very long. And especially with injuries and that sort of thing, you have to make some concessions through lack of experience. Wilson is from Arlington Heights, Illinois, attended the University of Minnesota, where he majored in mechanical engineering. Originally drafted by the Mets in '87, but did not sign. That was on the 26th round. Then he became a #1 pick and strikes out in his major league debut. So the 9th inning comes to an end. 10-0 Reds.
Come fly the airline that's uniting the world. United. Come fly the friendly skies.
Storyline in this one, all Cincinnati getting underway in the first inning and all the way to the 9th with 3 more to make it 10-0. Jose Rio going after victory number 11, and he'll have no problem getting it with his 7 innings tonight. Brian Williams, however, was very off in his game from the beginning and will be on the hook for his 5th loss. Bill Doran, the former Astro, contributing to the offensive attack. Triple, walk, single, walk, and another walk, and scoring a total of 3 runs in the game. 4 runs. And, of course, he was involved in that play in an off-handed way involving the injury to Barry Larkin when he was coming home to score. And Larkin was waving him to slide, and he chose to stand. And Larkin was hit accidentally by the plate umpire Terry Tata, who threw the bat out of the way and hit Larkin on the right ankle. So now we have Milton Hill on the mound to mop up here in the 9th inning and get a chance to pitch.
Milt Hill's a product of the Reds farm system. He's a sinker, slider, split guy. Good arm. He's been up and down this year, split time between Nashville and the Reds. He's a guy that figures in the future plans for the Reds.
And Craig Biggio will in fact get a chance to swing the bat here in the 9th inning after getting the day off. Biggio ranking among the National League leaders in runs, walks, stolen bases with 35, on base percentage .390, top 10 in hits, corners pulled in, 1-1.
Amazing story how he's made the transition from catcher to second base. And he plays defensively at second, more than adequate. He's turning into an above average major league second baseman. Always been a really fine offensive player. Astros utilizing his speed. He's got 35 on the year. Couldn't quite run as much from the catcher position. Too much of a strain on the legs. He'll open up now. At his age, just 26, he'll steal 40, 50 bags in the future.
One and two is the count to Craig Biggio. Milton Hill is from Atlanta. Originally a 28th round draft choice in '87. Lazy fly out to O'Neill. Well, Chicago beating Pittsburgh earlier today. Pirates trying to stave off the challenge of the Montreal Expos. Atlanta winning today over the Dodgers. So the Reds will remain 6.5 out. One ball, no strikes is the count to Ernest Riles, and Jeff Bagwell is in the on-deck circle. He'll get a chance to hit. Riles, a longtime backup middle infielder with Milwaukee Brewers. 2-1.
Watch Danny Wilson behind the plate. Major league debut for Wilson. He's got butterflies back there right now. You always wonder, as a little leaguer growing up, what it would be like to play in the big leagues. He's back there now.
Shattered bat out to short, and Benavides gets rid of Ernest Riles. 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th inning. 10-0. Cincinnati on top.
I'll tell you what Danny Wilson is finding out. He's finding out that, hey, they play the game the same up here as they do anywhere else. He's going to find out that, yeah, he can play up here. They still have to throw strikes. They still have to catch the ball and throw the ball.
Jeff Bagwell slumping lately, 8 of his last 44. And so he could use that day off today. Gets a chance to swing the bat here in the 9th inning of a blowout. Bagwell with 13 home runs, 75 RBIs. And that puts a lid on this one from the Astrodome, John.
With 25 games left, the Reds needed a big win, and they got it. Jose Rijo went to the mound for them and carried home the victory. He goes to 11-9, and he helped cool off the hot Astros.
And the Reds, of course, hope that Barry Larkin and his bruised ankle from being hit by a bat tossed by the umpire inadvertently will not be a problem for more than a day or so, and they'll hopefully get Bip Roberts back in the lineup tomorrow. So that'll do it from the Dome. 10-0. The Reds on top. Pole over for John Stearns. Good night, everybody.